So thanks for joining us. My name is Steve Thompson. I'll be your presenter today. We'll be talking about Microsoft Teams. There's a lot of new features rolling out, and my goal here today is to talk you through some of those things that have come out recently, especially around calling and meetings, and then give you some tools to do your own sort of legwork, to stay current, places that we go for our information. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit about something called a workshop. Microsoft enables us partners to be able to deliver workshops to customers. And that's one of the great ways to get started on your Teams journey. Just a little note about our technology today. Sometimes people ask this stuff. I'm in our Apex office today here in Southfield, Michigan, and I'm using a Poly Studio P15. So this is an all-in-one device. Think of it as a small integrated soundbar, microphone, and video device that's sort of perched on top of an external monitor. It's an amazing, amazing device. I hope the video quality and the sound quality are coming through loud and clear as we deliver this webinar. Here at Apex, I look after our alliances, especially our close alliance with Microsoft, as well as working on building new and advanced solutions to bring to market. And I thank you again for joining us today. So let me spend a couple of minutes talking about Apex and talking about what we're going to accomplish today. So our story here at Apex is about empowerment. Our goal isn't to be a transactional, project-based partner. We really want to work with customers so that you can unleash your employees and your organization's potential and do some of your best work. It's really a differentiator here at Apex versus a lot of organizations that I've worked with in the past where the project-based come and go kind of mentality really reigns supreme. And so I'm super proud to be here starting back in March of this year. Just a little bit about us. We've been around for a while, right? This business moves fast. And I think there's something to be said for those companies that can weather all the storms and all the changes. If you think about the landscape in 1999, many of us in technology were worried about the year 2000 and rewriting COBOL programs. A lot has certainly changed since then. We're a gold and silver partner across multiple competencies, as well as being a reseller. Just a side note, the Microsoft Partner Program is changing in October, and actually we're going to see those gold and silver designations go away. Go ahead and reach out to us if you have questions about how any of that might impact you as a customer. We've got great customers, get great feedback from them. We've been named a top place to work. And like I said, I've been here since March, and I couldn't be more proud to be a part of the Apex team. And so we've got these three brand promises. We always bring the team. When you work with Apex, it's not a single point of contact or a single point of failure, right? There is a team behind everything we do. We're really looking to help you solve your problems and drive your business forward. You know, I mentioned that we are a license, a CSP or NCE reseller. That really isn't all we're about. It is a great business to be in. It's a way we can help our customers, but we're about solving your problems, whether they're Power Apps and Power BI based, whether it's Teams, whether it's security, whatever the challenges you face are, we're there to help you solve them. And it's really about the outcomes. One of the things that I've tried to develop in my career is just a real focus on that endpoint. Where are we trying to get? It's really about the outcome, and how we get there together is critical as long as it empowers, as long as it brings that outcome to bear. It's not technology for technology's sake. I think we've been through those days before, both as partners, as customers, even as vendors, you know, bright, shiny objects and so forth, and sort of lose focus on those business outcomes. I really feel great about the era we're in now, where whether it's worldwide global challenges or whether it's just a change in the nature of work, challenging economic times, people are really focused on doing the things that are going to drive their business forward. So what are we going to talk about today? So I'm going to talk about some new features and devices in Microsoft Teams. I'm also going to talk to you about sourcing this information, staying current. There's lots of links in this deck. I know our marketing team is going to follow up this webinar event with this information for you to consume at your leisure, as well as we're going to be making a recording of this and making it available to all of you and all of our customers. I'm also going to talk a little bit about Microsoft Workshops. Microsoft enables us partners to, at scale, go to customers and really help them envision their future around Teams, around security, around collaboration and Frontline and all kinds of different solutions. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the revisions and the improvements in the hybrid meetings workshop as of July 1st. So what I hope you'll walk away with is some ideas on some new features and some new devices that are in market or coming to the market that might be in fact impactful in your business. There's actually a couple of devices I'm really excited to talk about because they're a different form factor maybe than you're used to. I'm going to try to give you some of those tools so that you can stay informed. Obviously, here at Apex, we'd love to continue to work with all of our customers around keeping them at the leading edge of technology to enable their business. And obviously, I'm going to look for our ability to help you do these things, right? As a gold certified Microsoft partner, we're in the business of helping customers along that journey. I hope that sounds good to you today. As Michael noted in the chat, he'll be watching for Q&A. We're both in the office. We're separated by a wall. And if need be, he'll just come over here and hit me about the head and neck and make sure I address any questions that we have. I'll also try and keep an eye on Teams. You'll know when I'm doing that, though, because I've got kind of a split monitor setup. And so if I look down and to the right, it doesn't mean I'm lying, right? That's a police interrogation trick, right? It means I'm checking Teams and seeing what people have to say. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And so every month, Microsoft provides resources to partners and frankly to all of you as well to talk about and get an idea about what's new in Teams. And what's new in Teams cuts across all the different aspects, chat and collaboration, any files or administration changes. I'm really going to focus on calling, on meetings and devices, and then we'll talk a little bit about the tools that we use to bring this information to you today so that we can help you in the future, as well as perhaps give you some ideas about ways to source this information as well. So when it comes to calling, there's a really cool new feature for any of you that are running call queues and shared lines in your business, and that's the ability to have that caller ID be right. One of the things that maybe historically has been a challenge is that depending on the flow of the call, what that caller ID looked like to external parties. And so now with Teams, what you can do is you can mask all the agents in a queue, in a sales team, in a support team, so that their outbound caller ID looks like that inbound queue number. So 1-800-APEX sales is our inbound sales queue, let's say. That's a few too many numbers. Now we have the ability with Teams calling so that if Rob or Adam or Tim, any of our sales experts are making a call out to a customer, we can show that 1-800-sales number versus the extension, or if they're sitting at somebody else's desk or picking up a phone in a hoteling cube here at Apex, they're always going to have that sales queue be the outbound caller ID. Very cool feature. There's lots of stuff within calling to do get in trouble if I say a specific number. 80, 85, 90% of sort of that call center requirements that are out there. If you run a call center and if it isn't hundreds of agents, if you're not Southwest Airlines, really take a look at Teams, and the feature set is incredibly robust for most customers' needs. All right. So now let's talk a little bit about Teams meetings. There's a bunch of new features here. I'm going to talk about a few of them, and then towards the end, I'll show you some recaps of the different features that have been added. So one of the things that a lot of our customers have is multi-language. Windows and the Microsoft platform have embraced multiple languages for many, many years. Now, even within Teams invites, we have the ability to be able to apply a secondary language to that Teams meeting information box, so that that information goes out in Spanish and French. For a lot of customers, language requirements are a big deal. The same way in Dynamics in your financial platform, you need multi-currency. More and more of us every day support global organizations, and having this multi-language capability is really, really critical. And so there's information here about how to set it up. It is rolling out, and I believe it is fully rolled out to the commercial tenants at this point. So one thing I know a lot of people do, they might not admit it, and if you're really paying attention, you'll notice I might be one of those guys, is that people are using multiple devices to join Teams meetings, right? You grab a mobile phone, you grab an iPad, not just your laptop computer. You might even be using a home computer and a browser. And so we've got a few key improvements here when it comes to Teams capability on these additional devices. And so this one, honestly, I'm really excited about, which is multitasking panels on iPads, right? I've got this big or big-ish iPad screen. I really want to be able to see multiple Teams panels at once. Originally, the mobile experience was really optimized for screen space, limiting what you can see, what you can do, sort of making trade-offs. Hey, I want to see the content. Well, now I want to see chat. So let's put away the content. Let's take a look at chat, right? And so with the iPad, there's enhanced client ability to be able to see multiple panes right in a meeting. And so this is launched. Maybe if it's not for you, if you support executives, if you support road warriors, they've got these kinds of devices, and features and functions like this coming to these mobile devices is really, really critical. Speaking of which, meeting chat bubbles on iOS and Android. It used to be really frustrating. I would know there's a chat message out there. I just couldn't see it, or I had to sort of, move away from the meeting content or the meeting video to be able to see the chat conversation within a Teams meeting. Now on iOS and Android, we've got the bubble functionality to pop up that chat message, kind of like we do on a Teams Rooms device, to say, hey, I know you're not looking at the chat window. A new piece of chat came in. Let's put it up on the screen briefly, so you can take a look at them. This is rolling out as well. Perhaps some of you have already seen it. Another reason, just as an aside, another reason to stay on top of these kinds of advancements in Teams is that these things are just lighting up on people's desks all the time. There's actually one I think I'm going to talk about where I found out about it just a few days ago because it just was there and started working. And I know for those of you that are in IT, whether you're administrators or support or leadership, you know what? It's no fun getting scooped by your clients on a new feature or when they have questions about how something works after a change. And so staying on top of these changes can be critical. So this one, rolling out to iOS and Android, so you can see those chat messages as they come in. We also have now an ability for co-organizers. So in meeting options, you can choose other people from your tenant. You can't assign this to guests or people from outside the organization, but you can give them this co-organizer role. And so a meeting is sort of hosted by multiple people. Some advantages there when it comes to meeting control. My partner in crime, Michael, he's always late, right? Maybe he should start making me a co-organizer for his meetings so I can manage them before he shows up. There's a couple of critical limitations you'll see here. Around breakout rooms. The recording is only going to go to one person's OneDrive. If that's the way you're doing that default storage of the meetings, it's just going to go to that one person. It's the attendance reports are still going to be focused on that one person, but the ability to set up multiple organizers to control these meeting options is a key new feature that you should see in Teams already or rolling out very, very soon. So this is another big one too. Before Apex, actually a couple of lives ago, I worked at Microsoft, and I was actually there when we purchased some of the assets that have evolved and morphed and changed to where we are today with Teams. Way back in the day, there were acquisitions, including things like live meeting, that really started the foundation of web-hosted meetings, chat and IM, collaboration that we now know as Teams. And what's been interesting is the journey from a person on stage and an audience and all the functionality and control really being about that, to a 180-degree shift to everything's about collaboration. Everybody can take control. Everybody can chat. Everybody can let people in from the lobby. In the early days of Teams, or in the sort of the end days of things like Link and Skype for Business, you know, I would be on meetings in previous roles with 40 and 50 people all in full collaboration mode. Unmuting microphones, you know, turning video on and off, taking control. It was a real pain. And so Microsoft is now adding in features again to really thoughtfully control the meeting experience based on the type of meeting that it is. And so this is one example of that, right? Being able to disable chat right for anonymous or unauthenticated users. So if you do have that big collaborative meeting, maybe you're not using the live events platform like we are today, but you have a really big collaborative meeting that includes people from outside the organization or unauthenticated guests, you can now disable their ability to write to the chat, right? I think we've all been in many, many meetings where the chat gets a little bit out of control, and this is just one great way to control it. Oh, there we go. So integrated captioning in meetings on the web. So CART, or Communication Access Real-Time Translation, is an outside provider service for translation or closed captioning. The AI and the built-in Teams functionality, it's great, and it's come a long, long ways. I've been lucky enough to do a couple of speaking engagements overseas in my day, and nothing beats a native speaker doing translation services. And so now, when it comes to Teams meetings, you can plug in those third-party services and actually have their translation, their transcription come through into meetings on the web. This is a huge advantage, again, for some of your organizations that are multilingual, multi-geographies. This is a huge win for Teams capability. And we can also do the native piece right in Teams on the web client. So I mentioned this earlier. One of the great things I've seen over the last year or 18 months is Teams really moving towards client parity, or sort of endpoint parity, whether it's iOS and Android, whether it's iOS on the bigger iPad form factor, whether it's Mac or Windows clients, or frankly now, whether it's the web client. That functionality keeps getting more and more rich and more level set across all the devices. And so this is a big one, right? So now we can have live captioning and transcription on that web client for everybody. And so end users can turn it on. Maybe some of you are playing with it right now, and being able to see that right in the web client or in your Teams client, and sort of rate the service based on how good it's doing with me. English is honestly one of the hardest languages to do transcription and live captioning, simply because of accents and colloquialisms and the complexity of the language. That said, I continue to be impressed by the fact that it does a good enough job, that it can serve a purpose and generate that written record of meetings, or aid people with disabilities around hearing. It's a fantastic tool. Make sure your users know about it, right? Not a lot of folks think to turn it on or to use it, even if it might be something that would be beneficial to them. Make sure we're socializing that great feature out in our community. And we're adding more spoken languages to live captioning and transcription, right? Microsoft has done a great job. When I look at this list, I mean, Portuguese, you think about Portugal and Brazil, huge markets, Turkish, Vietnamese, Hebrew, Czech and Thai, all additional languages. I don't know the count. It says added 6 more. I probably should have done a little bit of legwork ahead of time, because I bet you it's some fun number, like we're up to 35 or 40 different languages that are supported within Teams. This is launched. And even though I'll probably lose you guys for a minute, it is really interesting to see the power of switching to a different language. You know, hey, if you took French in high school, why don't you put on French captions and see if you can follow along. And so we've also made some improvements to notifications, specifically in Android, the ability to sort of collapse and view a more full list, get a preview of how many are out there, clear all with just a single button tap. You know, I know for many of us, like I mentioned, you know, more and more of our customers are taking Teams meetings in really, really creative ways. You know, I sort of have the full experience here in the office. I'm on a great Poly device right now. I've got my phone I can run out into the hallway and do stuff with. It came about yesterday, right? In one Teams meeting, go hop into a Teams call on my phone in the hallway for 2 minutes before I ducked back into our meeting room, one of our meeting rooms. And so the fact that they keep advancing the functionality on devices, including Android, is super, super critical. I'm going to remind myself, I want to mention something else that used to be Android specific that maybe is worth another look. So I don't know, for some of you, maybe if you're in highly regulated industries, or you've got call centers or controlled desktops, the next couple are really about advancements around VDI, Azure Virtual Desktop, offerings from VMware, and being able to get to parity when it comes to the experience people have in that managed environment, right? So transcription is now available on virtual desktop infrastructure for AVD users, for Azure Virtual Desktop users. So people can follow conversations and do all that we were just talking about in that VDI infrastructure. And so I don't know if some of you are, you know, existing or historic, you know, Citrix or Windows, you know, Windows terminal services, moving into VDI kinds of worlds, maybe using VMware or using Azure Virtual Desktop. Maybe you're taking a look at Windows 365 now as a solution for that controlled desktop experience. One of the challenges historically has always been a little bit of a disparity between that virtual machine and what it's like to have a real machine with, USB ports and sound cards and all that good stuff. And so you'll see in a few slides here, a lot of innovation around that virtual experience. So if you're doing those virtual desktops, that experience is just getting better and better. And so this is a big one, right? Give and take control of shared content in Teams on VMware and Azure Window Desktop, right? So what this is saying is that you can give and request and take control of shared content from these virtual environments. I don't know if some of you use this frequently. Sometimes it can be very, very handy if people are in sort of a non-cloud environment. Obviously, I'd love for it to be co-authoring and something shared in OneDrive or SharePoint. Everybody's got access to it. Kind of eliminates the need for this. But if you have documents that are isolated, someone's in the field and it's local on their machine, this is a great way to be able to co-control, co-manage, co-edit the content, and now having that capability in the virtual desktop world, both VMware and AVD, really, really critical. So this is a cool new feature. It's rolling out now. We don't have that kind of infrastructure here. For better or worse, we make sure everybody has machines they can take with them wherever they need to go. But if you're working in that kind of constrained environment, you know, maybe there's high turnover, maybe it's a call center environment, maybe it's summer interns and you don't want them, you want to be able to manage that desktop very closely. Maybe it's a financial or a regulatory kind of environment. If you're building up that infrastructure, just know that Teams is getting better and better in that world. So that was just a few things about meetings and calling. I'm just, as you can tell, I'm just checking checking a little bit of the questions. There's a couple of questions in there about where do you find these different features. In the slides, it talked about, you know, they're hidden under the ellipses. Some of them will just surface. So the notification pieces in like iOS and Android, they'll just surface themselves. And to be frank, sometimes people just hunt them down on their own without knowing they're looking for a new feature. So thinking about the things that we talked about, some of them were admin controls, like using the outbound caller ID from a queue. Some of them are going to be discoverable under the ellipses in the team client, those 3 dots. Things like turning on live captions are there, and doing some other controls. And like I said, some of them will also just be exposed. Some of them will just be exposed as you use Teams. One of them, and I can't remember where it's highlighted, it might be in a list slide, is that you can pop out shared content. That was a coming soon one. I discovered it yesterday. I was viewing some content and I noticed that there was a, hey, you want to pop this out and make it its own window, right? And I know for some of us, a meeting like this might be a great example, is that when that feature rolls out, the ability to pop that content out and just have a focused window on the webinar slide. Maybe you don't want to see my face. I can understand. Those kinds of features are just ready to go as they roll out. And it's part of the reason I'm glad you're here today. And I'm glad we're going to talk about the devices, but then I'll talk about some tools you can use to get ahead of your customers. I know here at Apex, one of our businesses is managed services. We do a lot of managed support for customers. And one of the things that happens is end users discover a new feature and maybe they turn it on and can't figure out how to turn it off, or turn it on and it changes the experience in a way that they don't fully understand. We see calls like that. And so anything we can do as a partner here at Apex, helping you or you on your own to just get that communication out ahead of customers. It's sort of like the tenant level global admin emails about things that are changing in the tenant. You know, we've done some innovation to say, how do we get those messages to the right people? So if you're an administrator, you know, you get the global admin mail, it's got 47 things in it, but you have a calling person who cares about calling, or you have a Teams person that cares about the Teams experience, give us a call because we can help you route those messages in an automated way, be smart about how those messages sort of get to the right people. Microsoft has made some improvements in getting that message out, but we've sort of taken it to the next step because getting out ahead of the customers in this cloud world is really important, right? They love change so much, right? And when they find these new features, they inevitably explore them. Maybe it works out great, and maybe sometimes they have questions. So that's a good question. I mean, I think it's really critical to understand that these things are just going to pop into clients. As I mentioned before, you may have noticed I'm the Mac guy here in the office, and it actually serves a purpose, right? So I'm able to validate, hey, this feature's not in the Mac client yet, or it is, or maybe I even every once in a while I get stuff ahead of Windows, which is kind of fun for me. And so, you know, we're doing that constantly, trying to figure out what the state of the end client is. And so hopefully I'm giving you some tools today to get a little bit ahead of your constituencies a little bit. All right, so now let's talk about some fun devices. As I mentioned, I'm coming to you on a Poly Studio P15. It's a great device. One of our businesses is really around rooms and calling, and so we're really focused on the device experience as well. I mentioned earlier, I sort of look after our partnerships, and we've got great partnerships with Poly, with Logi, with Yaylink, with Jabra, and so because of that, we can bring these devices to their fullest in your environment. So this one cuts across everybody, right? I don't know if I don't know if it'll work here. I don't think you can raise your hand in a live event, but in your next meeting, if you long press that dedicated Teams button on any device, it should raise your hand in the meeting. And so this is nice innovation that actually, you know, works backwards to all your Teams certified devices that have that that Teams button on them. And so if you long press, do you like how I'm pantomiming long pressing my ear? So if you long press that Teams button, I know my Poly P20 speakerphone that I use in my home office, it's got a dedicated Teams button. So if I hold that down for just a second, my hand will go up in the meeting. Kind of a cool new feature. I really wanted to talk about this device. And so everybody's familiar with Surface Hubs. They're a great device. The Surface Hub 2s have a lot of innovation in them as well. There have always been, whether it's supply chain challenges or availability challenges. And so it's great to see device partners like Neat and now Yaylink get into this kind of device for your meeting rooms and for your use. So the Meeting Board 65, it is a touch 4K amazing device that's designed to roll in, roll out, use it in any sort of environment, be modular. It is a really, really interesting form factor to think about. I mentioned one of the things we love to help customers with is their meeting rooms. We've got several here in our own offices that are, you know, designed, built for their function. Our large room where we hold events, large screens, and a Teams room system. Our CEO in his space has an executive conference with a Yaylink bar. Our service department has sort of a fixed meeting room solution, but I see a ton of utility for this mobile approach, right? Even if the mobile approach maybe lives in a room that doesn't have a good wall for TV mounting, or you know that it's going to be a collaboration focused space where you want the ability to whiteboard and to be able to do those things in an easy way. And so I talked to our Yaylink rep. These are coming across right now from the manufacturer and will be available very, very soon. If you're interested in learning more, follow the link here in the PowerPoint. If you're interested in purchasing these devices, we'd love to help you out. So I mentioned Poly and being on a Poly device right now. They've also got this interesting device. So the Studio P21 is a display camera that you connect via USB to your workstation that handles all of the meeting controls and makes for a wonderful meeting experience. I could see this for those of you in the government space, hanging this off a machine in a meeting room or maybe on the dais of the city council, that they can be involved in the Teams meeting for constituents as well as present in their in-person meeting. But the device allows you to focus on the meeting at hand. Right now, I'm doing something similar by using a second monitor. I'm very focused on the meeting content because it's in front of me with a camera. This allows you to do that in a focused hardware way. And so it's a really, really innovative device, and something that in certain scenarios I think could be really, really effective. And so Dell's got something in this space too, which is a conferencing monitor, right? And so this is now Teams certified. You can see it's basically the built-in or the all-in-one version of what I'm doing right now. In my case, the Poly device is sitting on top of the screen. Here, it's a built-in all-in-one kind of experience. I think one of the challenges that I face, and you'll see it here, is I want to check for questions and things like that. Oh, look at that. Our screen share went away. Let me fix that. Thanks, Michael. There we go. We should be back. Sorry about that. I don't know if we missed actually seeing the Poly Studio P21 or what the Yaylink Meeting Board 65 looked like. This is that innovative on wheels device. This is the devoted screen for video conferencing and being Teams certified. And then this is the Dell UltraSharp that is now Teams certified as a monitor with built-in conferencing functionality. What I was going to say about this one is I'm looking forward to the day where they innovate and are able to put the camera sort of behind some pixels in the middle of the screen. Because the depth here is only a couple of feet, I'm sure you're able to notice just slightly in my eyes when I look down at the screen, when I'm looking straight at the camera. If we were to get that camera into the middle of our video field, that would sort of go away. The reason this doesn't happen, say with the news broadcast, is that camera and the teleprompter, even though they're separated, it's far enough away from the focal point, from the speaker, that the difference in eye height is negligible. But because I've only got 2 feet of depth here, you might be noticing when my eyes wander around, not just when I look this way for my laptop, but even when I glance at the content, you might notice that. So these innovations are great. Like I said, I'm looking forward to the day when we can bury a camera in the center of our video field. Yaylink's also coming to market with some new personal devices, wired and wireless headsets. One of the things, and I'll sort of use this opportunity to talk about, is we've helped a lot of customers who initially got pushback from their users, their constituents in the environment, as they move to Teams, meetings, voice and video, or even Teams calling, based on the devices they had issued or not issued into the world, right? I can say firsthand, there's nothing worse than Teams conversations on AirPods. They just aren't designed for effective collaborative meetings. The kinds of features that are built into these Teams certified devices really make it a great experience. And it's been the history over the last 10 years where I've seen deployments of Teams or, again, Link, Office Communicators, Skype for Business, all of that good stuff fail. Oftentimes had to do with the end user experience. Are we giving them good cameras? Are we giving them headsets that are Teams certified? And so Yaylink is one of the partners. I mentioned the others, Poly, Logi, Jabra, that bring these devices to bear in a way that give end users great experiences. And so here's a new Bluetooth wireless headset from Yaylink. And so there's a lot of choice in this space, right? The world of Teams certified, shrinks the world greatly, right? You can't go to Amazon and buy, some, retail boom mic and over the ear and necessarily have the same experience. It's not Teams certified. So Teams certified shrinks the world a little bit, but then within that world, there is a ton of options and a ton of flexibility when it comes to the experience you want. On ear, over ear, in ear, 1 versus 2, right? And what's funny is oftentimes these choices are as personal as the clothes people wear. And so one of the things that we can do, that we do for customers and we can do for new customers is really help you navigate that, help you build a list of approved devices, help you roll them out, do education so that people have the device they want and will feel comfortable using. So here's an example, the Jabra Engage, right? So, you can see, again, a different style, very, I'm air traffic control, landing planes at LaGuardia kind of feel to it. That's great for some people, right? I'm more of a one-ear person. I want to also be able to hear ambient sound. And oftentimes in most environments, I try to use a speakerphone simply because if I'm on video, I don't like the look of wearing a headset necessarily, as well as just having the freedom and the flexibility to sort of move around a little bit. And so these are 3 new devices from our partners, Yaylink and Jabra, that are available now, and we'd love to help you socialize these and get these out into the environment. That end user experience is so critical. So another tool we have when we're talking about Teams features and functionality is the M365 Roadmap. And so we pulled together a bunch of things into a slide, hyperlinks out to the information in the roadmap for interesting things that are in development or launched and rolled out. So you can see, we talked about some of these launched and rolled out ones here. You can see that there's a lot of other ones out, direct guest join for Zoom and WebEx meetings on video enabled and certified Teams Android devices. This was a big one. If you're in the world of Teams rooms, if you're not in the world of Teams rooms, give me a call. I'd love to help you with that. If you have Android-based devices, you now have direct guest join for Zoom and WebEx, right? Microsoft is committed to the interop. So are our hardware partners like Poly and Logi and Yaylink in this space. And so this was a big deal. And so just trying to provide you kind of an all-in-one list of things that have changed within the last month. And then around meetings, kind of that same approach. PowerPoint Live Cameo has been added to the roadmap. Pop out shared content into a separate window. I have it added to the roadmap. I swear to God, I did it yesterday. I don't know if we're on an inside track build or maybe that is rolling out more quickly than I had anticipated. Cameo and PowerPoint Live, just so folks know, Cameo is that interesting, sometimes marginally creepy, like cutout of me that's superimposed on top of the slides, right? So now you can load your PowerPoint presentation into PowerPoint Live, be able to see the content, and then be able to see my image my outline superimposed on top of the content, right? So rather than having a content pane and a video feed, you would simply have the video feed superimposed on top of the content. Not sure where you land on the spectrum of thinking that that's really interesting or marginally frightening, but it is something that they're going to be rolling out. And you can see all the different pieces around meetings that have been launched or rolling out, things that are in development. Viva integration, being able to do a rating poll, reusing those polls in Teams meeting, popping out shared content into a separate window. I talked about breakout rooms for Teams rooms on Android. So again, there is feature disparity sometimes in these endpoints, whether they're room endpoints or whether they're client endpoints. Microsoft's working super hard to bring all those things together. Get back on the right window. And so I also included a couple of things. So for June, kind of wanted to show you where I sourced a lot of this information. And so what they do is they will post every month on the Microsoft Teams blog this What's New post, and you can see hyperlinks to the different sections around meetings and calling and devices and Teams meeting rooms. Those are the ones we kind of focused on today, but they'll also call out any chat or management or Power Platform advancements. I've got the link here. It's real easy to find. If you search Microsoft Teams blog, What's New, you'll find these entries relatively quickly. And I don't know if everybody knows, but just last week was an event called Microsoft Inspire. So every year at the beginning of July or in the middle of July, Microsoft holds an event for their partners where they kind of rally us, get us updated, get us new information, talk about any changes. And so there was a post just from a few days ago specific to the announcements made at Microsoft Inspire. So they use Inspire as kind of a new product, new feature, new roadmap, point in time release. And so there was a blog entry on Inspire specific updates. One of the things being something like Excel Live. And so Excel Live is a feature in development that'll be rolling out soon where we can natively load an Excel spreadsheet into a Teams meeting and co-author it right within Teams, right? And so it's cool functionality. They made this and several other announcements at Inspire. And so I just wanted to include that information here as well. I also wanted to include, looking back a couple of months, just some highlights around what was changed in May and April. I think I even have March as well. Don't really want to clear the slide except for this was my cue to remind myself to talk a little bit about walkie-talkie. It used to be that the walkie-talkie functionality was focused on Android. Now it's supported across iOS and Android devices both. And I don't know if any of you are in the construction industry or live in a world where people are still mad about you taking away their Nextel phone with push to talk, right? Nextel rode that horse for a couple of decades, far beyond where I thought it would go. And for some scenarios, that walkie-talkie functionality in Teams, especially now that it's on both mobile platforms, could be super interesting in some specific scenarios. So if that's something that you hadn't thought about or might have utility within your environment, you should take a look. If you want help taking a look, obviously give Apex a call. We look back to April, so now you can see some things. Maybe this is stuff you're already using. You can see different pieces that were added, the device store in the admin center. In meetings on the web, you can share system audio. So if you're playing content and you want to stream the audio from your system from playback on your machine, you can do that from within a web meeting and not just the thicker clients on Windows and Mac. So this is looking back to April. I even have March in here. And so we'll follow up with everybody and make sure you have access to this content. In June, we kind of went through a higher degree of detail, but I wanted to include this as well, so you can see that the innovation just keeps coming, and have a bit of a retrospective of what's happened over the last few months. So something else that was updated coming into July is this thing called the Microsoft Teams Hybrid Meetings and Rooms Workshop. And so workshops are something that we as partners can deliver to you customers that really jumpstart you on your journey to hybrid meetings, to fully realized potential when it comes to the Teams capability, as well as getting into Teams rooms. Only 9% of the world's conference rooms are video enabled in any way. There is a huge opportunity for us to embrace the hybrid sort of work ethos by really fully deploying these environments. We've done dozens upon dozens of rooms across our customers where we've turned that conference room into a fully video, audio, collaboration enabled space, because the reality of the world is I'm back in the office today, but truth be told, I live in Minnesota. And so I'm not here every day. The commute's really a bear. When I'm at home, but everybody else is in a room here, it is so valuable that we have room systems, because they just allow me to feel like a part of the meeting. Whether we're collaborating on documents, whether we're sharing information, I can see everybody, I can read the room, they can see me, they know I'm paying attention. It just creates a hybrid dynamic that really works. And so these workshops are about assessing your environment, really showing you what's possible. One of the things that sometimes can be hard to demonstrate with this stuff, now that, oftentimes we've been separated by distance, is what it feels like to do this. And so we love bringing these workshops to customers so they get a feel for what would it be like if we had these kinds of collaboration tools. And then the whole goal of the workshop is to build a plan for you, and for you potentially to work with Apex to say, all right, now how do we get this work done? How do we work towards an outcome that's really going to drive our business? It's also about bringing those business people, those business decision makers into the conversation. I know a lot of us, we're in IT, we spend our time talking to IT, but Teams is really a business tool. And so the workshop is designed to show them value, to show them capability, as well as talk to IT about security, talk to them about implementation, talk to them about support, and really bring it all together. And that bringing it all together is a partner like Apex. I will promise you that if I do an art of the possible for any of you as customers, I will not wear a yellow stocking cap inside. I find that a bit strange, but hey, stock photos are stock photos. And so we build an art of the possible to give you the experiences that are meaningful for you. What kinds of devices are you looking at? What are your meeting scenarios? What kinds of events do you hold? Do you hold webinars like we do here at Apex, right? Well, then let's talk about and let's experience what live events are like. How do I do webinars and registration? How do I control the content? How do I manage Q&A like Michael's doing in the next room? And so we can give people all of those experiences so they really can visualize what might be possible in their world. And so, like I said, we do this assessment piece, we make it personal for you, get a sense of your environment, build what you want to see when it comes to the art of the possible. We give you that immersion experience. Here's what it feels like. And actually here at Apex, if you're local to Detroit or near one of our partners' experience facilities, we can bring you in and actually have you feel and touch and see the environment in use, right? I'm using this personal Poly device, but we have 4 rooms set up with different collaboration scenarios that we'd love to show you, and give you a sense of how this can work in your environment. And then the goal of this work is to come out with a plan, to come out with next steps. Where do we go from here? Not only is this the engagement that says, hey, let's build the plan, but we want to make it actionable, whether it's you and your team, whether it's you and the Apex team together. What does the plan look like to get from point A to point B? And so they've made a huge investment in the hybrid meetings and rooms workshop coming into July. All the content is refreshed. All the experiences are refreshed. And we're super excited to be able to deliver it for customers. And so it takes all of these considerations into play. And then we talk about the outcomes. Which rooms are we going to target? What do we have to do to get people into effective hybrid meetings? Is there a device component? Is there a personal device component? Is there training and education that we need to do? Oftentimes that's something that gets overlooked, right? Just like we talked about end users discovering new Teams features, we want to make sure that they are trained and capable and don't shun the technology simply because they don't know or they're afraid to explore it. So with that, let's get started, right? I wanted to close on just a few numbers that talk about why this is so critical, right? It's your rooms only have minimal technology. People want changes to the environment. Hybrid is here to stay. All of these things have led us to a new world where we've got to make some changes, right? So this stat says that 93%. I said 8. They say 7. We'll call it 7.5, right? There is a huge opportunity to improve those experiences. Small huddle rooms, personal devices, up to the large meeting rooms. I think so many people think about video-enabled rooms being the college, auditorium for 300 people locally, but then streaming out, or an auditorium or company meetings with thousands of attendees. Most of the video meetings I take, I'm by myself. The other end might have 2 or 3 people on a shared device. And so the landscape has dramatically changed. And we've sort of moved into a video first world. Teams just added a new feature that rather than IMing someone, you can just basically record a snap or an Instagram movie and make that your communication to them. So video clips is now something that you can use to collaborate and chat right within Teams. The world is going video, and we just need to embrace it. And so Apex is here to help, right? I hope you learned a lot today. We talked at depth about June, and we looked back at March, April, and May. We dove into devices and meetings, as well as a little bit on calling. And then I really wanted to talk to you a little bit about the workshop opportunity. It's something that we can deliver to you to really kickstart your engagement and adoption with Teams. With that, I'd rather be lucky than good. It looks like we're sticking the landing right on an hour. Thanks for the questions in the chat. I hope I answered all of them. It's been a pleasure talking to you this morning, or if I'm talking to you on the recording. Make sure you think about Apex when it comes to your needs in this space. We're here to help, and we bring the team. With that, I'll let you go. Have a great Thursday and enjoy the rest of your day.